Wow, it's been a long time since you posted a video. Yeah, I know. What happened? Well, my mother had surgery on her right hand, so I had to help her during her recovery, but she's all better now. Well, what are you going to review today? Who knows? Who cares? With YouTube's constant change in their algorithms, it's not like anyone's going to see this. Today's game feels like a blast from the past with the emphasis on past. I'm talking about the 16-bit era, down from the graphics, the sound, even the wonky collision detection, and the occasional unresponsive controls. The first time I saw Fox and Forest was Jim Sterling playing either an alpha or beta build, I don't remember, and honestly, the lines between alpha, beta, and finished product have become so blurry nowadays that not even an electron microscope could tell them apart. I had eventually forgotten about the game. I remember what it looked like, but could never remember the name. It wasn't until it finally came out and was reviewed by your mainstream gaming media outlets, I found it on Steam and bought it. Fox and Forest was developed by Bonus Level Entertainment, and they had a Kickstarter for the game as well. Wow, a retro-inspired game on Kickstarter? Oh really? Go on. Remember when Shovel Knight came out and people were analyzing it to see if it could really be on the NES because of its music and sound? It was determined that it couldn't due to having more colors and certain sounds the NES wasn't capable of. Well, with my expertise with the Super Nintendo, which is very little because I had a Sega Genesis, I would say that this game could be within the realm of the SNES's capability, and definitely within the PlayStation 1 and Sega Saturn's power. Probably not the Atari Jaguar though, what a miserable system that was. For a game that uses pixel art in the same vein as the 16-bit era, it looks very much like a game on the Super Nintendo. It reminds me of Artie Lightfoot and how it's bright and colorful with a very cartoonish look. The music itself reminds me of Super Ghouls and Ghosts, which was a soundtrack from the 4th generation that I really enjoyed. Fox and Forest is a platform game where you play a fox called Rick. You can jump and double jump, shoot a crossbow, and perform melee attacks with it as well. You're able to buy magic potions and use them, but the biggest ability in the whole gimmick is the ability to change seasons. Summer will change to winter, spring will change to fall, and you only have a limited time to do so before the seasons change back to their default, as changing seasons drains your magic bar. Changing seasons will allow you to make some obstacles disappear or allows you to traverse them, like making huge leaves for you to jump across, turning water into ice so you can walk across it, but some things will actually become more dangerous when the season changes. I've seen baby birds grow into adults and then attack you. I like this mechanic, but I feel that it hasn't been fully fleshed out. However, I can't really think of a way that would take full advantage of it because it feels like there's not much to it. The most that I could think of is switching more seasons around, but since you can only switch between 2 and not 4, it leaves little to do. After defeating a boss, you'll get a different type of arrow which will also consume your magic. The magic recharges on its own, so as long as you don't change seasons, but you can sustain the season by collecting blue gems. There are 4 areas, each with 4 levels, 2 main levels, a boss arena, and a bonus level that only opens up once you collect the 10 seeds in the main levels. The progression of the game is all based on exploration. You can collect mana crystals to increase your magic bar at the upgrade shop, and stone discs will help you in upgrading your melee attacks. But to progress from area to area, you need to collect magic seeds. And it's on Spyro 2 levels of collecting to progress. You can't just go from area to area. You need to go through the levels, exploring every nook and cranny, using newly acquired abilities to open up new areas to get a seed, mana crystal, or stone disc. It painfully adds length to the game as you replay through the levels to get those seeds just so you could get to the next area. Now, normally, I wouldn't mind this type of progression system. I liked Yooka-Laylee. I had no issue with collecting things in the Banjo-Kazooie games. I even had no issue collecting stuff in Spyro 2, until it ramped up the amount of orbs needed to open the last door to a ridiculous amount. I wouldn't normally mind this type of progression, but there's 3 problems, and these 3 problems make replaying and exploring these stages an irritating slog. 2 I mentioned at the beginning of the video. A minor issue is the collision detection. Some hitboxes seem larger than normal, or slightly offset as I've gotten hit when there was space between me and the enemy. But the major issue that I did have was the game not responding to input commands. If you use the double jump, you can't use the mid-air melee attack, which I think is silly, but using the melee attack after the first jump doesn't register sometimes, causing unfair damage.
But then there's another mid-air attack that you get to use with the double jump, but it also doesn't register at random times. The ground pound is even worse, because there may be times where it does the mid-air spin attack instead, in addition to maybe doing nothing. And if you played this game and are typing in the comments, I didn't have these problems, well, good for you. But that doesn't help me at all. I cannot base my review on your experience now, can I? And the third issue that I know would not be exclusive to me is that some enemies, mostly the airborne ones, and some that require you to crouch a melee attack, respawn way too fast. There may be times where you need to jump around, so you clear the path of enemies, and then they respawn as you make your way where you need to go, so you take damage. I think this could be alleviated if you could fire the crossbow in mid-air instead of a melee attack that seems to work on a random number generator. It's not like Mega Man where if you leave the screen or move past the enemy's spawn part, they come back and reappear. No, they poof back after 5 seconds, and I timed it. It's 5 seconds. And there's a plethora of these flying enemies. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 at a time. Those are the 3 things that made me give up after clearing the third area, because I did not want to go back through that graveyard level to look for seeds to get to the 4th area. Nor did I want to go through that windmill section because it felt more like a punishment than a reward. As for story, the dialogue between the characters tries to be funny with that new let's insult the main character type of humor that gets annoying after the first few seconds. So after the introduction, I didn't even bother to read any of it. I just skipped through it. But despite it all, I would say that this game is on par with games that you'd be playing during the 4th generation, and it would probably be a really good game for that time, as it's a pretty good adaptation of that generation. But it wouldn't be one that held up to the test of time like Mega Man X, which may be this game's closest equivalent. Or maybe Super Ghouls and Ghosts.
This game needs a little bit more polish. Not a lot, just enough to shine it into the gem that it is. I wouldn't recommend getting it at full price yet, at least not until maybe a patch is released that fixes some of the issues that I brought up in this video.